My husband and my in-law dragged me out of a 5-star restaurant like I was nobody, after I paid a $4,000 bill for them and their friend. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved one. My name is Zariah, and I've never been the kind of woman to count favors. I believe in generosity, especially with family. So when my mother-in-law turned 60, I planned the kind of dinner that makes even the Bentley house manager pause. Private dining suite, hand-stitched menu cards, imported florals, specialty cocktails, even a live violinist. Everything was custom. Everything was paid for by me. It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was love. Or at least, that's what I thought I was honoring. 17 people sat around that candlelit table. Elijah, my husband of 4 years, his mother Claudine, 2 of her sisters, her bridge club, his college friends, and even some people I swear I'd never seen before. They toasted her like she was royalty. And not one of them questioned how the evening magically happened, or who made it happen. Claudine clinked her glass, smiled at me, and said, "You always know how to make things look beautiful." I smiled back, even though I knew there was something hollow about it. That's Claudine's gift, knowing how to compliment you while telling you you'll never really belong. Still, I played hostess. I kept my lipstick fresh and my smile fresher. It wasn't until dessert that I overheard her, just a passing moment. I stepped out of the dining room to check on a delayed soufflé, and her voice carried through the corridor like it wanted to be caught. "She's just decoration," Claudine told her cousin. "A doll with a wallet. Elijah will come to his senses eventually." I didn't move. I couldn't. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. But her tone wasn't slippery or unsure. It was final. Practiced. Like this wasn't the first time she said it. I went back to the dining room and asked Elijah to step outside with me for a second. No drama. No emotion. Just a quiet question. "Did you know what she thinks of me? Is that how she talks about me when I'm not around?" He looked at me blank. "Why are you doing this tonight?" "I'm not doing anything. I just thought you should know what I..." Claudine came walking out right on cue, eyes wide with fake concern. "Everything okay here?" And just like that, it flipped. "She's upset over nothing," Elijah muttered. "We'll get her home." I blinked. "I'm not leaving. I paid for this." That's when he reached for my wrist, not gently, and said, "Don't make a scene." 2 minutes later, I was outside the Bentley house in 5-inch heels, holding my clutch like it was the only thing still on my side. The valet didn't even meet my eyes. The smell of burnt sugar still made me sick. In Charleston, even the air feels personal. Damp, slow, like it's watching you. I sat on the edge of the hotel bathtub that night, a silver heel dangling off one foot, still wearing the gown I chose for her. Not one of them had called. Not to check. Not to ask. Not even to lie. Elijah texted once. "You blew that way out of proportion. We'll talk when you calm down." No punctuation. Just like him, flat, rehearsed corporate empathy. The kind that pretends to care without the weight of actually doing it. He didn't ask where I went. Didn't say sorry. What he said, without saying it, was that it had been my fault. I closed my eyes and let the memory roll backward like a film reel caught in rewind. The clink of cutlery, the lace sleeve of Claudine's dress brushing mine as she leaned over to ask if the rose had been too ambitious for Southern palate. The way her voice lilted when she introduced me. "This is Zariah, Elijah's wife. She does design stuff." Like I was a prop, not the woman who paid for the champagne she was sipping. Back at the table, when I returned from confronting Elijah, no one looked at me. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the insult, not even the wrist grab, but the choreography of silence. 16 people trained their eyes anywhere but mine. One of Claudine's friends whispered something, and another snorted softly into her napkin. Elijah sat back in his chair, his arms slung over the back like nothing had happened. "She's just having a moment," he said to the table. And that was it. No explanation. No defense. No man standing for his wife. Just me standing, trying not to cry in front of $4,000 worth of people who couldn't have cared less. It wasn't the humiliation that broke me. It was how easily I was erased. Like I'd been photoshopped out of my own event. Later, in that Charleston hotel room, I opened my laptop. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Receipts, maybe. Proof I existed. The invoice from Bentley House glowed across the screen. $4,187.56, paid in full. They didn't even sign the card. I did. I scrolled through photos on social media. Claudine's niece had already posted a video. "When Queen Claudine turns 60, we do it right, nail polish medium skin tone, money with wings, woman dancing medium skin tone. I was in the background, blurry, holding a wine glass and looking straight at the camera. But I wasn't tagged. Just a ghost in the party I paid for. That night, I learned something brutal. Money doesn't buy you love. It just buys people more ways to pretend. Around 2 a.m., I walked down King Street barefoot, heels in hand. The city was quiet, except for the buzz of a neon dive bar and the distant laughter of tourists. A man in a Saints jersey asked if I was okay. I smiled and said yes. I lied. That was the moment I realized I hadn't been betrayed that night. I'd been replaced a long time ago. Quietly, strategically, they just waited until the cake was cut to tell me. And I let them. I made it easy. I paid the check, handed over the spotlight, walked myself out the door. But next time, I wouldn't walk out. Next time, someone else would. Dallas had always felt sleek to me, efficient, modern, almost too clean. But that morning, something about it felt predatory, like the skyline itself had teeth. I was back in the townhouse. Our townhouse. Same monogram towels. Same curated bookshelf Elijah pretended to read from. Nothing broken, nothing out of place. Except me. I walked past the framed engagement photos and went straight for the drawer in the hallway console. Fourth one down, left side. The file we jokingly called the just in case. Inside, our marriage certificate, some old tax documents, and a thin manila envelope labeled prenup, final signed. I don't know what made me open it. Maybe I needed proof I hadn't hallucinated all of Charleston. Maybe I just wanted control over something. The moment I saw the clause, my throat tightened. It was buried near the end, under a section called dissolution term. If I initiated separation, I forfeited all rights to shared assets, real estate, stocks, even the business we started together. The business in my name. That clause hadn't been there when I signed. I remember because I read every line before we married. I wasn't naive. I had a lawyer. She even flagged a few vague areas and got revisions approved. But this version was different, quietly savage. I pulled out my laptop, logged into our legal doc portal, and checked the timestamp. The signed file was uploaded 6 months after our wedding. 6 months. My signature was there, neat, practiced, perfect. But the clause was added later. The formatting even looked off, like someone tried to match the font, but couldn't quite get the kerning right. I called my old lawyer. She was retired now, but still remembered me. No, she said carefully. That wasn't in the draft you signed. I have a copy here. I asked her to send it. She did. Side by side, the two files told a story more honest than Elijah ever had. The forged clause hadn't just appeared. It had been crafted, inserted, uploaded, and then quietly left in the drawer like a weapon waiting to be triggered. I stood in our kitchen, staring at the Nespresso machine he always bragged about, and felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't about a fight over dinner. It wasn't about family tensions or miscommunication. It was engineering. They'd planned for my exit, designed it, financially cornered me so that if I ran, I'd do it broke. No house, no brand, no recourse. This wasn't a marriage. It was a merger, and they'd already written the press release for my departure. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I packed a bag, not the dramatic kind, just one suitcase. Black, unbranded, silent. If they thought I'd leave quietly, they didn't know me. They forged my downfall in Arial font. I'd rewrite the ending in blood. I left Dallas without ceremony. No notes, no final words. Just that forged clause folded into my purse like a scar. I didn't go home. I went south to New Orleans. Not for comfort, for confirmation. Danica met me at the airport in oversized sunglasses and a hoodie, as if anyone was checking. She hugged me fast, like she didn't want to be seen doing it too long. That was the first red flag. But I let it go. We'd grown up more like sisters than cousins. Matching braids in church, late-night calls over boy drama, homemade birthday cards until we were nearly 30. If there was one person I thought I could trust, it was Danica. We sat on her porch that night, cicadas humming in the background, a bottle of white wine sweating between us. She kept avoiding my eyes, fiddling with her cuticle, laughing too hard at nothing. Finally, I said it. Did Elijah's sister ever reach out to you? The silence that followed was the most honest thing she'd given me in months. Danica's shoulders dropped. She stared at her glass like it had answers in the bottom. She offered me $5,000, she said, just to watch. Take notes. See what you were spending, who you were around. That kind of thing. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My mouth had gone dry. I didn't take it at first, she added quickly, like that made it better. But then you started traveling more, posting less. I figured you were drifting anyway. I didn't think I was hurting you. I was just reporting. Reporting to who? I asked, even though I knew. Elijah. His sister mostly. Sometimes his friend Mason. She looked up. They said you were slipping, getting too controlling, burning through money. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay level. Did you believe that? Danica hesitated. I wanted to believe something. You stopped calling. You changed. No, I didn't change. I got quieter. I got smarter. And apparently that made me suspicious. She reached out to touch my hand. I moved it. That's not all, I said. Who else? Danica winced like the question physically hurt her. Your assistant. I blinked. Simone, she said, eyes full of shame. She told them everything. Passwords. Credit card usage. Travel dates. They paid her monthly. She said it felt like insurance. My stomach turned. Simone had been with me 3 years. She knew everything, clients, vendor lists, even how I took my coffee. They hacked me, I said quietly. Danica nodded. They didn't need to. You invited them in. We all just helped them walk through. I stood up. The porch creaked beneath my heels. Danica tried to follow. I didn't know they were going to go this far. I thought they just wanted dirt in case you left him. I didn't know they'd. You thought what? I turned. You thought they were building a scrapbook? This was a coordinated takedown. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sure the money helped. She flinched. You think I did it for money? I didn't answer. Because by then I knew the truth. It was never about money. It was about control. They couldn't break me with force, so they surrounded me with people who would gently push until I tipped over on my... But I hadn't fallen. I'd woken up. Phoenix didn't feel like starting over. It felt like shifting into another skin. I arrived just before dawn, before the heat set in, with nothing but 2 suitcases and a burner. My friend Yvette, bless her ruthless, no-questions-asked loyalty, had a small design firm registered under an alias she used for client privacy. I borrowed it. Just for mail, just for cover. Enough to vanish without technically disappearing. The condo she found me was tucked behind a rundown golf course on the edge of the city, quiet, beige, forgettable. The kind of place people drive past without seeing. Perfect. There were no welcome flowers, no fresh linens, just a bed, a fridge, and blinds that didn't quite close. But I felt something I hadn't felt in months, stillness. First thing I did was kill everything digital. Instagram locked, Facebook gone, email accounts scrubbed or rerouted. I stopped using my name for anything. No tags, no check-ins. I wasn't hiding. I was collecting space. I watched Elijah from afar. Through a ghost account, I saw him flaunting that townhouse like it was his solo kingdom, hosting business mixers in my living room, sipping bourbon in my velvet chairs. The audacity would have stunned me once. Now, it only confirmed what I already knew. He thought I was out of the picture. That silence meant surrender. He didn't realize silence could also mean setup. The first few weeks in Phoenix were clinical. I logged data, phone calls, transfers, patterns, people he met with, places he went. He was careless with his trail, because why wouldn't he be? He thought I'd been neutralized. After all, why would a woman who'd been dragged out of a restaurant, outplayed by a forged prenup, and sold out by her own people ever come back swinging? But that was his first mistake. Grief makes women unpredictable. Silence makes them dangerous. I took long walks at night, headphones in but no music playing, just ambient noise. My thoughts were louder. I remembered moments I'd brushed off. His sudden need to handle the books, his push to move our office to a building he chose, his accidental lockouts on accounts I'd created. It hadn't happened all at once. That's the trick with men like Elijah. They don't steal power. They make you hand it to them in pieces, thinking you're being reasonable. But I wasn't interested in just reclaiming what he stole. I was going to burn it down. Publicly, elegantly, without raising my voice. I started with paper, old client contracts, payment receipts, screenshots of messages Simone forwarded without consent. I had more than enough. I just needed timing and precision. The thing about building events for billionaires is you learn how to make a room collapse beautifully without anyone seeing your hands on the wire. That's what I was doing in Phoenix. I wasn't escaping. I was staging the calm before the collapse. I never meant to go back to Detroit. It wasn't home, just a stop, a cold city with colder memories, where Elijah had once hosted a business retreat that doubled as a weekend escape with people I hadn't been invited to meet. But it was also where one of his storage units was. And at that point, I was looking for leverage in every drawer, folder, and forgotten box he hadn't thought to lock up. The unit was under his cousin's name. I found it because Elijah, in his typical arrogance, used the same password for everything, even back then. I walked in with gloves, a clipboard, and a lie ready in case anyone asked. What I didn't expect was the iPhone. It was in an old shoebox beneath branded t-shirts from one of his failed real estate ventures. Screen cracked, battery bloated, years outdated, but it turned on, and it hadn't been wiped. No lock code, just arrogance. I scrolled through old texts, calendar invites, voice memos. At first, it was all business, client notes, quick rants, boring logistics. But then I found a folder marked MOM. Not Mom's birthday, not Mom's voice. Just that MOM. The first recording was short. Claudine's voice, sharp and amused. You need to control the optics. She makes it look like you depend on her. The second was worse. You wait until she gets tired. Make her think leaving is her idea. Then a pause. Then laughter. The third was the one that cracked something inside me. She was never one of us, Claudine said. Pretty sure. But she was always beneath us. A temporary upgrade. Let her think she's winning, then take the house. The brand. All of it. She'll leave herself. Just wait. They were planning it before the prenup clause, before Charleston, before Danica sold me out. I wasn't a person to them. I was a campaign to manage. The voice memos span months. Elijah and his mother strategizing like war generals. Their tone never changed. No regret, no caution. Just cold logic. Phrases like brand perception, exit narrative, controlled collapse. Like I was a failed product line. I replayed them twice, sitting on a plastic folding chair in that storage unit, the hum of a single overhead bulb buzzing like a warning. Every fake smile, every gaslit conversation, every carefully timed silence from Elijah, it all clicked. He didn't fall out of love. He fell into character. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the precision, the paperwork, the patience. They had built a full exit strategy while I was building us a future. I uploaded the files, saved them in 5 locations, sent a decoy copy to Elijah's own cloud account, just to let him know I had them. Because this wasn't marriage. This was warfare. And I finally had the artillery. Miami was exactly the kind of city Elijah couldn't resist. Loud, lacquered, and obsessed with the illusion of wealth. He called it a strategic expansion of his brand, but the truth was simpler. Miami gave him the kind of spotlight where surface mattered more than substance. I'd been watching from the sidelines for weeks as his newest project, the Orion condos, unfolded like a PR stunt wrapped in concrete. Press releases, ribbon-cutting teasers, a preview party for select investors. It was all very polished, very staged. He didn't know I was on the guest list. He also didn't know who got me in. That was the beauty of betrayal. Once people realize your name isn't radioactive, but his is, they start switching sides. I didn't walk in early. I walked in precisely 30 minutes after the first camera crew set up. Silver gown, low bun, minimal makeup. I looked expensive but understated, like a thread in heels. When Elijah saw me, his glass stopped midair. He blinked like I was a hallucination, like maybe he'd finally overdosed on his own ego. A few guests turned to look, confused but intrigued. A woman like me doesn't walk into a room unless she owns it. And tonight I did. Elijah, I said, voice smooth. Congratulations on the launch. He didn't respond at first. His jaw worked like he was grinding a response down to something palatable. I could see him calculating. Was this a scene? A surprise endorsement? Or something worse? I didn't make him guess for long. I turned to the nearest reporter, some glossy-lipped local anchor who smelled opportunity, and handed her the folder. Inside, I said, you'll find 3 years of tax discrepancies tied to this development, falsified supplier contracts, and at least 2 shell corporations listed under my name. Cameras turned faster than heads. The anchor opened the folder. Her face shifted from curious to carnivorous. The kind of expression people get when they realize the story of the night isn't about property. It's about scandal. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to explain. The numbers spoke louder than I ever could. There were forged vendor payments to non-existent companies, inflated supply costs, fake investor memos. And in the middle of it all, my name, used like a rubber stamp on every questionable deal. Elijah finally stepped toward me, voice low, jaw clenched. What are you doing? Correcting the record, I said. Don't worry. I made sure the IRS got a copy first. A camera caught that line. I saw the red light flicker and kept my face neutral. This wasn't a performance, it was evidence. The guests began to murmur. One man, someone from Elijah's board, stepped away and started typing furiously on his phone. I imagined a dozen lawyers' inboxes lighting up at once. I turned to leave, but paused just long enough to whisper. You taught me everything I needed to know. Thank you for that. His face didn't crack. It caved. I didn't stay to watch the party implode. I didn't need to. He'd built that condo on stolen paper and empty charm. I just turned the lights on. Atlanta was her empire, and for years I played my role in it, smiling politely, attending her fundraisers, letting her introduce me as Elijah's beautiful wife, like I was part of her brand package. She made community service look glamorous, dressed her ambition in silk scarves and scripture. But I always knew there was something sharp behind that smile. I just didn't know how sharp until I heard the recordings. When I first listened to them in that Phoenix condo, her voice so casual, so sure, I felt nothing. Not rage. Not sadness. Just clarity. This wasn't just family tension. This was strategic, institutional cruelty. And she had said it all out loud, thinking she was untouchable. So I made sure the world heard it too. I sent the first recording to a local Atlanta reporter I trusted, someone who once covered her nonprofit's expansion, but had also questioned her sudden influx of luxury donations. I didn't even have to say who I was. As soon as he heard Claudine's voice on the audio, he asked for more. I gave him everything. The slurs, the threats, the dismissals. Her exact words. We need someone obedient. Zariah was pretty, but she got ideas. Make her believe it was her decision. Let her leave. Then replace her. Women like her don't know how temporary they are. I told the reporter to wait until the Foundation's annual gala to release it. Claudine loved her spotlight. I wanted the truth to arrive when the lights were brightest. That night, I didn't watch the live stream. I didn't need to. My phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications, reposts, news alerts. It was everywhere. Guests walked out mid-speech. 2 sponsors withdrew within the hour. Her speech ended early, her voice trembling, her eyes scanning the crowd for someone to blame. There was no one. The school district pulled her from their advisory board. A city rep asked for an ethics inquiry into her foundation's funding. Her carefully built Queen Mother image, refined maternal, above reproach, disintegrated in less than 48 hours. I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief. She had counted on silence, mine and everyone else's. That's how women like her survive. But she didn't count on me listening, documenting, waiting. Elijah texted, "Was this necessary?" I didn't reply. Because yes, it was. I wasn't just dismantling them. I was scrubbing their fingerprints off everything I had built. Everything they tried to hijack. Claudine wanted a daughter-in-law she could control. She never expected a woman who knew how to burn a kingdom from the roots. And I didn't need applause. Just the sound of her silence. Chicago was cold in a way Phoenix never was. Sharp, honest, bracing. It didn't pretend to be warm. Neither did I. The courthouse downtown felt more like a financial district than a place for justice. Marble floors, metal detectors, guards who didn't blink. Elijah arrived in a navy suit, flanked by a lawyer who looked like he handled hedge fund divorces, not conspiracies. He scanned the room like he still expected to control the narrative. That old charm, all smoothed edges and practiced innocence. But charm dies under oath. My lawyer was a woman named Reagan Holt. Sharp voice. Tighter jaw. She didn't waste time with emotion. Her opening statement wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. "This is a case," she said, "about deliberate, methodical sabotage. Not a failed marriage. Not a misunderstanding. A coordinated deception involving forged documents, unauthorized financial manipulation, and coercive control. Every piece of it landed. We didn't just show the altered prenup. We showed the metadata proving it was changed after the signing. We presented screenshots of Elijah's text messages with Simone, detailing exact amounts paid for updates on her behavior. Even Danika's reluctant email confession, outlining what she was asked to track, my spending, my moods, my whereabouts. There was audio, too. Not from Claudine this time, from Elijah. Voice notes where he called me the funding source, discussed managing perception, and told his sister, "Once she leaves, I'll own the name, the real estate, and the brand." I watched him flinch. Then came the receipts. Business expenses charged to my name. Contracts falsified with my digital signature. Credit accounts opened without my knowledge, later closed before I could trace them. Layer by layer, it painted one truth. This wasn't about love gone bad. It was control executed cleanly, until it wasn't. Elijah's attorney asked for leniency, claimed misunderstanding, miscommunication, and my personal favorite, a breakdown of trust on both sides. The judge didn't buy it. Her ruling was clear. Elijah was to pay $312,645 in restitution. His business license was suspended pending a full investigation into fraudulent filing. His personal and corporate bank accounts were frozen indefinitely. He didn't speak. He just stared, eyes glassy, jaw slack, as if waiting for someone to explain how it all happened to him, not because of him. I didn't look at him when I stood. Didn't adjust my coat, didn't smile, didn't rush. I just walked out. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. They'd tried to erase me with signatures, whispers, and charm. I responded with records, law, and quiet force. The city felt colder when I stepped outside, but I didn't mind. The storm had passed, and I was still standing. Harlem felt honest. No illusions, no need for performance. Just history in the bricks and rhythm in the streets. I rented a narrow brownstone on 127th, worn, imperfect. No nameplate, no press release. Just the quiet hum of starting over. My new firm opened 2 months later. Small team. Private clients. No social media footprint. I didn't do interviews. Didn't reclaim my narrative. I let them guess. Let the silence speak. Elijah's name turned sour in the industry. Investors dropped. Projects stalled. The man who once walked into rooms like he owned them now couldn't get a phone call return. But I never said his name again. There was no gloating. No victory lap. That's not how precision works. I designed events that whispered power, not shouted it. Quiet luxury. Seamless experiences. Clients who valued discretion over spectacle. Sometimes people asked about the past. I'd smile once and change the subject, because this wasn't about erasing what happened. It was about proving I never needed the noise to win. I wasn't rebuilding. I was refining. Alone wasn't empty. Alone was sharp. And sharp is how you cut clean. Do you think I was right to walk away without a word? Or should I have confronted them face to face one last time? I'd love to know what you would have done. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if my story kept you hooked, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.